Mr. Lake, I am baffled by your lawsuit, so I am hoping, sir, that you are going to be able to explain to me why you believe that this young lady should give you $2,500.
As a consumer in a very aggressive area, retail grocery, as a consumer there where...
Why don't you tell me the story, sir?
The story is...
Yes, tell me about the lawsuit.
The lawsuit itself concerns...
Put your papers down, put your briefcase down, and just relax and tell me the story.
The story, which I have the physical evidence here, is that as a consumer, on Christmas Eve of last year, I entered with a companion at a certain grocery store in the San Diego County area. With that, with my companion, we went through the cash-only line. My companion went first. She bought a couple of items. She was waiting right there on Christmas Eve for me to go through. Body language that she was ready to go, keys in her hand, tapping her foot. It was a very rush type of thing. I come in with one item in the cash line. I go ahead and confront the cashier with...
That's this young lady here.
Yes, ma'am. A person now who I now know the first and last name of. At that time, she was wearing a name tag with just her first name and last initial. At that time, right here on the receipt...
You gave her your item. What did you buy, sir?
I bought one bottle of champagne.
Okay, you bought a bottle of champagne, and you gave her money.
Not only did I give her money, but before I gave her money, I said, I have two $20 bills and a 50.
Well, why would you say
Shut up!
Pardon me.
You gave her two $20 bills and a 50. And how much was the champagne?
You can see the attitude of the store.
Hey, just a second. Mr. Lake, answer my questions,
Yes,
please.
ma'am.
How much was the bottle of champagne, sir?
The bottle of champagne with the tax and everything else came out to $4.30. I asked Ms. McConnell, can you break a 50? I told her I have two 20s and a 50. She said yes. I handed her a $50 bill, a quarter, and a nickel, $50.30 for $4.30 purchase.
So what happened? Come on, speak
What
up the
happened
story.
was, with my companion waiting to go, rushing off for...
I heard the companion. What happened with the money and the champagne? Come on.
The money in the champagne is, I got the champagne, but I didn't get all the money.
Okay, so you say that she shortchanged you in the change. Is that right?
She went ahead and counted out $50 in cash as a count back. I grabbed it and the receipt, stuffed it in my pocket, and left. Very soon after, in the same part of town, I had another cash transaction. I got out my cash. The receipt read clearly, cash tended $40.30.
Okay.
I went back within half an hour of making my purchase. I confronted her and I said, have you taken in any $50 bills recently? And she said, no. This is within minutes after the transaction.
Okay, so what happened? Come on.
What happened was that talking to various store officials, including one Dean Honda, and
You talked to people at the store.
Yes, ma'am.
And did you get your $10 back?
I got the $10 back after a lot of arguing, and I also got the corporate phone up here in LA County.
Mr. Lake, so you went in, you gave her money, you realized sometime later when you were making a purchase that she had given you, according to you, $10 less in change than you should have gotten. So
Yes.
far as that, make it fast?
Yes.
You went back to the store. At first, they didn't think that they had made a mistake, but ultimately that evening, they gave you the $10, correct?
After a lot of arguing, yes.
So you had a lot of arguing, whatever. That evening, they gave you back the $10.
That's correct.
So why are we here?
On principle. She still has her job. She has not, to the best of my knowledge, been reprimanded, and the store has tolerated outright theft. This is not my opinion. This is physical evidence. They tolerated outright theft. It's not my fault that she wanted some kind of a Christmas bonus on her own as an individual employee. In an industry that from the top constantly cheats consumers through price fixing, that store managers constantly take items off of sale on their computers. We have, in addition to that, employees working on their own, taking money out of my pocket. The principle of the thing is we have theft, we have denial of the theft, and we have zero cooperation from the corporation.
Okay. Now, I have a couple of questions to ask.
Yes, ma'am.
How many lawsuits have you filed with regard to this particular incident?
One.
And this is the only one?
Yes, ma'am.
Never filed any lawsuits against her because she has a counterclaim against you for a variety of things, including abusive process, which is really the basis of your lawsuit, although you don't couch it in that language. She says that you've sued her at various times And she'll tell me about that. You've also slandered her, which you did right now. You said she was a thief.
And I stand by that.
May cost you money, Mr. Lake. You understand that?
I stand
Because
by
now
it.
I'm going to ask you some questions. Then I'll get to you. Okay, fine. It was Christmas Eve.
Yes, ma'am.
Store was busy,
Relatively so, yes.
and there were a lot of people online waiting, which is why you went to the cash line?
No, it was well staffed. They had a fair amount of employees waiting on people, so it was busy, but it wasn't real crowded, or there was not a long line.
Okay. And you came to her, and what you said to her was, I have two 40s or a $50 bill. Two 20s or a $50 bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why would you say you had two 20s if the whole champagne was only $4?
I wanted to know,
No,
in the cash line,
yeah.
you know, I went through the cash line because I had one item in cash.
No, Mr. Lake, you're not following me, sir. If I had a 20 and a 50 and I was buying a $4 item, I might say, can you cash a 50? I have a 50 or a 20. Can you cash a 50? You told me that you said to her, I have two 20s and a 50.
Because I had just pulled it out, and I was looking at it and communicating right off the cuff at that moment.
So what you did, what you're saying to me, Mr. Lake, is, since you must agree with me that that was sort of a silly thing to say, I have two 20s to pay for a $4 item or a 50. I mean, that was kind of ridiculous, right? Mr. Lake, is that kind of ridiculous to say I have two 20s to pay for a $4 item or I have a $50 bill?
That's the items that I pulled out. That's the cash I had on hand.
Well, who cares what cash you had? What if you had a $1,000 bill? She doesn't care what cash you had on hand. You had a 20 and a 50. You could have paid with either one.
I had a couple
So
of
can you
20s.
say, did you ever say I made a mistake? Did you ever say that in your life?
Often.
Very good. Well, so you made a mistake. You should have said, I just have a 20 and a 50. Can you cash the 50?
Well, if I had more time, if it wasn't a rush situation, maybe I would have.
Now we're getting there, Mr. Lake. So you made a mistake because it was rushed, because you were taking out your money fast, because you had somebody waiting for you, and there were a lot of people behind you waiting to get checked out. So you made a mistake. Why wouldn't you give this young lady, and I haven't heard from her yet, the benefit of the doubt? Why do you ascribe to her malevolence, criminal activity, when it could have been an honest mistake?
That's a very good question.
I'm waiting for your very good answer. Now you're taking time to think about it, Mr. Lake, because you're going to think about a good response to me.
I can tell you right now, two good responses.
Yes.
Response number one, she counted back $50, not 40, in her count back. Number two, a few minutes later, she denies ever having the $50 bill in the first place.
Okay,
Had she said right then and there, oh, you know, if she'd apologized, if she would have helped me confer with the manager. I mean, up until I got the money back that night, she was fighting the manager. If she would have admitted her mistake, that would have been fine.
Mr. Lake, you don't think as a consumer you made a mistake by taking the money when she counted out the money and not looking at it? Not saying, I gave her a $50 bill, let me just check my change, instead of taking your change and just putting it in your pocket. Don't you have any responsibility to do that right at that moment?
Whatever responsibility I had with that, I took care of it as soon as possible.
No, you didn't. If you had taken care of it immediately while you were right there, you would have said, look, right, the bill right there on top, that 50 is mine. Instead, you walk out of the store after she counted out your money. Then you come back a half hour later after you've made another purchase someplace else and say, now, Christmas Eve, I want you to remember that I gave you a $50 bill. Hold it. Go.
From the beginning?
Well, if there's anything that he's left out from the beginning, I'd like to hear you.
Okay, when we went to the cash line, it was extremely busy.
How long have you been working at this store?
Since 1985. Not this particular store, for the company since 85. After I checked him out, I went on a 10-minute break. After I came back from the break, I went to another register. So when he approached me, he didn't ask me in a calm manner. He came up screaming a 20, a 10, a 5, and a 1, saying that that's a change I gave him. Asked if he'd taken any 50s lately, being that I had just returned from a break, maybe 10, 15 minutes. I was on a new register where his 50 would have been on the old register, so I didn't recognize him from the prior exchange because they had been so busy. I had hundreds of customers that day. I didn't recognize him, so I thought the only thing that came to mind was maybe he was wanting a nice, clean $50 bill to give as a gift. So I was saying, I don't think so, but I can check. And as I'm saying, I can check to see if there's one in the drawer. That's when he started going as 20, a 10, and a 5, and a 1. And then at that point, the manager came over to see what the commotion was about. The manager did not argue. I did not argue because I didn't know what it was about. The manager took the receipt, said, "You were short of $10. He said yes. He took him over to the courtesy desk. At that time, he just gave him the $10, no questions asked, really. It was a matter of minutes till he got his $10 back. And at that point, Mr. Lake took the $10, waving it in the air, screaming, "Don't go through Shannon's line. She has my money. She'll take your money."
Did you do that, sir?
Not all of those things.
Yes, sir.
I did some of those.
Ma'am, this is Jackie here.
Were you there that evening?
Yes, when her and I came back from our breaks, it just coincidentally at about the same time, she opened up on the register right next to me, and the way our register is set up is her customers' backs are to me, and my back is to them. Okay, so I heard a 20, a 10, real loud, and I turned around, stopped checking, turned around, and looked at Shannon, and then he goes up to the service desk with the manager and gets his $10. He has it in his hand, waving it. "She stole my money." I mean, Christmas Eve is the second busiest day of the year. I've been working there for 22 years. I've never seen anything like this before in my life, the whole time. And he was waving the $10, saying she stole it. The customers eventually, he was there for probably 5 to 7 minutes, yelling and carrying on in front of the store. So all of her fellow employees heard every check stand was open. All the customers were, it was very busy. Him saying it wasn't that busy, they're relatively. Anyway, so the customers finally started saying, "We don't want you here. Go back to where you came from. We like our store. We like Shannon." And he left. That's how it was. I saw the whole thing. I stopped checking to watch it because I've never seen anything like it.
Shannon, how many times have you been to court with regard to this case?
This is my third time.
Tell me about the first 2 times.
The first time I went,
You were served with a summons?
yes. I went.
What was he suing for that?
The first time was criminal and commercial theft, deceit, and fraud. That was the first one. I went there, and Mr. Lake failed to appear. I thought that was the end of it. I thought maybe he realized that this was a ridiculous case, and that was
Which
it.
court did you go to?
San Diego, Claremont.
Does that sound familiar to you, sir, that you filed a case there?
Yes, it did, and she was not serviced.
Just a second.
There was no service done.
I was
Just
there
a-
when he served the papers, and you did serve her, and you stood behind her and watched her check for about 10 minutes after you served her. You served her personally.
And I-
stood there
Just a
and watched
second.
you because
Just a
I knew
second.
you were.
And did you serve her?
No, I cannot serve. Service
Exactly.
must be
Just
done.
her.
Just listen to me. Just a second. You served her. You gave her the papers.
Yes, I did, and that is not service. Service must be a third party.
So why did you
Just
serve me?
hey. Do I look like I need help? Do I look like I need help? Mr. Lake, so let me understand this, sir. You did, in fact, give her papers with regard to this first suit that she's talking about, but,
Yes, I did.
and what you're saying is that it's a question of semantics, because since you, as a party, cannot serve her, a third party must serve her. It was invalid service, and therefore she was not served.
Also, ma'am,
Am I right?
that's correct.
Good. Now,
And-
say nothing. You're really ticking me off, sir. You're really ticking me off, sir. So you didn't appear in that action because you say she wasn't served. Is that correct?
That's partially correct.
Did you appear in that action?
No, I did not.
Then I'm correct.
You're partially correct.
I'm always correct, sir. The question is, she went to court because she was given papers. She's not a lawyer. She doesn't know that if a third person doesn't serve, it's not considered good service. So she didn't want to be in default. She went to court, and you didn't.
Also, the paperwork was given to Shannon M. I was trying to find out her last name so that she could be serviced correctly.
All right, so now we have one lawsuit that you filed that you didn't follow through with, and she went. When was the next lawsuit?
The next one was 2 months later. We went again, and at that point, we found out that not only did he have my court case, he had 2 other cases in the courtroom next door. Obviously, can't be in 2 courtrooms at one time, so he denied having the pro tem hear our case. So perhaps you could go to the other cases. So
Let me understand this so that I make it simple. When you showed up in court on the next court date after you were properly served, I
Yes.
assume, Mr. Lake, you had 3 actions pending on the same day. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you had to choose which case you would hear that day because you couldn't be in 2 courtrooms at the same time. So you said, I don't want a lay judge to hear my case. In her case, adjourn it to another day. Is that what happened?
No, ma'am.
Then let me hear.
I said I don't want a lay judge, a person who is not culpable to the Performance Review Board on any of my cases. That is a constitutional right.
And this is the 3rd case. Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
correct? Are you ready? Mr. Lake, in The year and a half that I've been handling cases in this court, I have never imposed the judicial sanction of fines for abusive process, fines that have been paid to the court for wasting court time. Now, I am dismissing your lawsuit because your lawsuit is frivolous. And not only is it frivolous, but this is the third time that you have abused the people of this state by taking up judicial time and manpower in filing it. There is no question that there was, based upon what I've heard, an honest mistake. You, sir, are a suer, which means you like to sue people. And maybe you get off on that, but I'm telling you right now that the judicial system in this country will not tolerate those people who abuse it, because if you abuse it, people who have a real case can't get court time because the courts are clogged with this kind of frivolous nonsense. Now, say nothing, Mr. Lake, you already said too much. Now, with regard to this lawsuit, her counterclaim, I'm awarding you. You are asking for $1,400. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And I'm also going to exercise my discretion and award you $2,500.